was called back to Rome on a night when the sky had no stars. The carriage moved through empty streets, wheels striking cobblestones like bones knocking together. No driver spoke to me. No guards asked questions. Silence was the escort that carried me into the heart of the Vatican. They led me below ground, past stairways older than memory. The walls were wet with breathless stone, carved by hands that had died centuries ago. The smell was not dust, nor incense, nor candle wax. It was something heavier, like ashes soaked in holy water. At the bottom of the final stair, a door of black oak waited. Candles burned on either side, but their flames leaned away from the door as though afraid to touch it. 2 guards pushed it open, and I stepped into the chamber. Cardinal Varick was there. His crimson robes spilled across the stone like a pool of blood, though his face remained pale as parchment. His eyes were dark and sharp, studying me the way a butcher studies an animal before the blade. "Father Silas," he said. His voice was soft, but it reached every corner of the chamber. "Your reputation is iron. You have questioned demons, and you have survived. But this task is heavier than iron, heavier than your will." I bowed my head. "If the church commands it, I obey." Varick's mouth curved, not into a smile, but into something sharper. He motioned, and Brother Anselm stepped forward. The young monk carried a plaque of black iron. He set it on the table between us. The surface was carved with words I did not recognize, yet I understood them as if they had been waiting in my blood. Rule 1. No blood may touch the ground. Rule 2. When a demon asks your sin, you must answer with truth. Rule 3. Do not let a demon count the beads of your rosary. Rule 4. If the possessed laughs, you must laugh with them. Rule 5. When your name is spoken in darkness, you must never answer. The chamber seemed to breathe as I read them. Each line felt like a nail hammered into my ribs. These were not commandments of heaven. They were bargains written in shadow. I lifted my eyes. Who wrote these rules? Varick tapped the plaque with one long finger. "The church preserves them. That's enough." "They are not holy," I said. "They are chains." "Chains keep the beast caged," Varick replied. "Without them the walls break and Rome burns. You have seen the fires before. Do not pretend you have forgotten." My jaw tightened. Images I had buried long ago pressed against my skull, screams in the dark, flames climbing wooden beams, the stench of burning flesh. Varick leaned closer. His eyes reflected the candlelight like wet stone. "You will carry these rules. You will follow them without pause. Break one, and hell itself will drag you down screaming. Obey them, and you may survive." The plaque was forced into my hands, cold, heavy, heavier than iron should be. The words pulsed beneath my fingers like veins. Brother Anselm lowered his gaze, whispering as he stepped back, "It begins tonight." The chamber grew colder. The candles flickered, shrinking as if suffocated by unseen breath. I thought I heard laughter in the walls, faint but mocking. Varick's voice cut through the silence. "Your first trial awaits. A priest has been taken. You will question what lives inside him, and you will obey every word written here." He gestured toward a narrow stairway leading deeper underground. The shadows there did not move, yet they felt alive. I held the plaque tight. The iron bit into my skin. Something inside me whispered, "These are not the rules of God. These are the rules of hell." And yet I descended. The stairway narrowed as I descended. Each step was damp, carved into stone that swallowed sound. My lantern burned low, the light bending in strange shapes against the walls. At the bottom waited another door, iron-bound, etched with crosses that had long since rusted into scars. Brother Anselm stood beside it, holding a small key. His face was pale, his lips moving in silent prayer. When he saw me, he stopped praying and said only, "He is inside." The key turned. The door groaned open. The chamber was small, lit by 4 torches wedged into black iron brackets. Chains ran from the walls to a heavy chair in the center. Father Benoit was bound there. His robes were torn, soaked with sweat, his skin ashen. His eyes opened when I entered, but they were not the eyes of any priest I had known. They were yellow, wet with hunger. "Silas!" the voice rasped. It was Benoit's mouth, but not his tongue. The sound carried grit, like glass ground between teeth. "The Vatican sends its dog. The rules rattle in your hands already." I lifted the plaque, forcing myself to read the words again, steady, cold. "No blood may touch the ground. When a demon asks your sin, you must answer with truth. Do not let a demon count the beads of your rosary. If the possessed laughs, you must laugh with them. When your name is spoken in darkness, you must never answer." My voice trembled only once, and even then the demon heard it. Benoit's head tilted, his lips stretching into a grin too wide for his face. "Then tell me, Silas, what is your sin?" The torches hissed. The iron chair shivered against the stone floor. I froze. Rule 2 burned into my skull. If a demon asks your sin, you must answer with truth. "I will not play your games," I said. "You will," the voice crooned, "or I will open his veins here and now, and the ground will drink what you swore to keep clean." The chains rattled, snapping tight, pulling Benoit's arms until the bones creaked. His head jerked, his mouth splitting into a shriek. The torches flared, shadows writhing like serpents on the walls. My hands shook. The plaque grew hotter, searing my skin. I tried to speak a prayer, but the words clung to my tongue like lead. The demon laughed, low and grinding. "Confess, Inquisitor, let us taste it." My throat closed. Memories pressed up from the pit where I had buried them. A village years ago. A boy chained to a bed, his parents begging me for mercy. I had believed possession had taken him. I had raised the blade, struck deep. His scream had not been a demon's. It had been a child's. I clenched my teeth, but Rule 2 crushed me. My voice tore free. "My sin," I whispered, "is that I killed a boy who was innocent. I mistook fear for possession. I slaughtered him." The chamber groaned. The torches bent inward as if gasping. Benoit's mouth opened in a grin that split his face. "Yes," the demon purred. "Yes, the truth blades sweeter than blood. And now you carry it again, not in silence, not in shame, but in chains." The chair shook violently, the iron links snapping against stone. I clutched the plaque, my chest burning with shame and rage. Brother Anselm stepped forward, voice shaking. "You have obeyed, Father Silas. The rule is satisfied." The demon's laughter filled the chamber, crawling into my ears, into my bones. "One truth today, many truths tomorrow. We will drink them all, until nothing is left of you but sins." I forced myself closer, standing above Benoit. "You will answer my questions now. Who sent you? What pact holds you here?" The grin widened. "Ask all you wish, but remember, the rules bind you more than me." The torches sputtered. The air grew thick, choking with smoke. The iron chair rattled until I thought it would shatter. Then, as suddenly as it began, silence fell. Benoit slumped in the chains, his eyes rolling back. Only a faint smile lingered on his lips, like the shadow of the demon still waiting beneath. Brother Anselm touched my arm. "It will not be the last, and the rules will demand more each time." I stared at the plaque. The words glowed faintly, as if feeding on my confession. The boy's scream echoed in my skull again, and I knew Rule 2 had only begun its work. I left the chamber with Benoit's scream still echoing in my skull. The torches had dimmed behind me, but the plaque in my hand glowed faintly as though it had tasted my confession and hungered for more. Brother Anselm walked ahead in silence. His quill scratched against his ledger, capturing every detail as if truth could be bound in ink. When we reached the upper corridor, I told him I needed solitude. He bowed stiffly and left without protest. His eyes lingered longer than they should have, sharp, curious, like a man watching a wound spread. The corridor was narrow, lined with alcoves where statues of saints stood in the half-light. Their stone eyes seemed to follow me, but I could not decide whether they judged me or pitied me. I leaned against the wall, pressing the plaque to my chest. My heart beat against the iron, and for a moment I wondered which would break first. "Father Silas." The voice came softly from the shadows between statues. I turned, hand reaching for the crucifix at my belt. A woman stepped forward, her white habit almost gray in the gloom. She held a lantern, its flames shielded, painting her face in dim gold. "I am Sister Miriam," she said. I studied her carefully. Her voice carried calm, but her eyes were weary, lined with sleepless nights. She did not look like a nun of simple devotion. She looked like someone who had seen too much and survived anyway. "What do you want?" I asked. She held out a bundle wrapped in cloth. "To warn you, and perhaps to save you." I hesitated, then took it. The cloth was rough, frayed at the edges. Inside lay a fragment of parchment, brittle with age. Faded ink scrawled across it, Latin words twisted by time but still legible. The lines were not prayers, they were decrees. No blood upon the ground. The sinner must speak truth. The beads shall not be counted. The laughter must be shared. The name in darkness must remain unspoken. My throat tightened. The words were older, yet unmistakable. They were the same rules etched into the iron plaque. I looked at Miriam. "Where did you find this?" "In the archives," she whispered, "buried behind volumes of canon law, sealed where few would dare to search. These are not commandments from heaven, Father. They are bargains." Her lantern flickered. The flame bent sideways, though no wind stirred. "Bargains with what?" I asked. She lowered her eyes. "With the ones you face in the chamber, with their kind. Centuries ago, the church made an oath to keep balance, to preserve power, to contain what cannot be destroyed. These rules are the terms of that oath." The words sank into me like stones thrown into deep water. My stomach turned. I pressed the parchment back into the cloth, but it seemed to hum against my skin. "Cardinal Varick gave me this plaque," I said. "Are you telling me he knows?" "He knows." Miriam cut me off. Her eyes met mine, steady, unflinching. "He enforces it. He ensures obedience. He believes obedience keeps the church alive, but obedience also keeps the pact alive." Silence pressed against us heavier than stone. From the far end of the corridor, faint footsteps echoed. I turned but saw nothing. Miriam leaned closer, her voice sharp and urgent. "Every rule you obey binds you tighter. Each confession feeds them. The rules do not protect you. They consume you." I swallowed hard. "Then why tell me this?" Her lantern shook slightly in her grip. "Because not every servant of God believes chains are holy. Some of us believe chains must be broken." I folded the cloth, hiding the parchment inside my robe. My pulse hammered in my ears. "If what you say is true, then the church itself is complicit." She gave a bitter smile. "Complicit or enslaved, perhaps both." The footsteps came again, closer now. This time I recognized the rhythm, Cardinal Varick's cane striking stone. Miriam stepped back into the shadows. "Hide it. Do not let him see." I pressed the bundle tight beneath my robe. The plaque still weighed in my other hand, cold and hungry. Varick appeared at the far end of the corridor. His gaze swept the alcoves, pausing briefly on me. His lips curved slightly, though not in kindness. "Father Silas," he said, his voice calm and sharp, "it is time for the next interrogation. The night waits for no one." He turned, expecting me to follow. I glanced once more at the alcove, but Miriam was gone, swallowed by shadow as if she had never been there. The parchment burned against my chest. The rules were no longer just iron words on a plaque. They were proof of a pact older than me, older than any Vatican stone. And I knew that with every step deeper into the catacombs, I was not only questioning demons, I was questioning the church itself. The chamber chosen for the next interrogation was deeper than the last, carved into stone that seemed older than Rome itself. The air stank of sulfur, though no fire burned. I felt the plaque in my hand grow colder as we approached, as if it recognized the one waiting within. Brother Anselm walked beside me, scribbling in his ledger even as we descended the stair. His eyes did not rise from the page, yet he never stumbled. He moved like a man guided by something other than sight. At the door stood Cardinal Varick. His cane tapped the floor once, a hollow sound that echoed long after the wood struck stone. "This one is not like the others," Varick said, his lips pressed into a thin line. "He has been called Acheron, though names mean little in hell. You will remember the rules, Father Silas, especially the fourth." My stomach tightened. Rule 4. If the possessed laughs, you must laugh with them. Varick opened the door. The chamber inside was larger, its ceiling lost in shadows. Chains hung from iron rings, clinking faintly, though no wind stirred. In the center stood a man bound to a heavy chair. His head hung low, hair matted with sweat. The air around him rippled, as if the stone itself recoiled. I stepped closer. His head jerked up. Eyes black as ink fixed on me. His mouth curved slowly into a grin that split too wide, too sharp. "Silas," the voice rumbled, not rasping like Benoit's possession, but deep, cavernous, as if many voices spoke in one. "The Vatican sends its inquisitor, the dog with iron rules." The torches along the walls flared, spitting sparks. Shadows crawled across the floor like worms. I lifted the plaque. The words gleamed faintly, burning against my skin. Acheron tilted his head. Then, without warning, he laughed. The sound split the chamber. It was not human laughter. It was jagged, grinding, filled with ash and teeth. It poured through the air, rattling the chains, shaking dust from the ceiling. My chest seized. Rule 4 ignited in my skull. If the possessed laughs, you must laugh with them. I clenched my jaw. My throat burned. The laughter pressed against me, forcing itself into my lungs. Brother Anselm whispered urgently behind me, "Do it, Father! Laugh, or the rule breaks!" The plaque seared hotter. My hands shook. The laughter grew louder, echoing inside my skull until my vision blurred. I forced a sound past my lips. It was broken at first, a cough, a gasp. Then it became laughter, hollow, bitter, unwilling. My voice joined his, rising and falling with his jagged rhythm. The chamber shook. The chains on the walls whipped like snakes. Acheron's grin widened. "Yes," he roared between laughs. "Yes, you obey. You wear our chains even as you think they are yours." The laughter went on, grinding against my ears, tearing at my mind. My body convulsed with it, each chuckle a knife twisting deeper. I could not stop. Then, as suddenly as it began, the laughter ceased. The silence that followed was worse. My own laughter hung in the air a moment longer, then died in my throat. Acheron leaned forward, eyes glimmering. "You feel it, do you not? These are not your rules, they are ours. We wrote them. Your church merely delivered them to you, gift-wrapped in holy robes." My breath rasped. Sweat soaked my collar. I tightened my grip on the plaque. "You lie," I said, though the words felt weak. "Do I?" Acheron purred. "Every truth you confess feeds us. Every laugh you surrender binds you closer. You are not the Inquisitor. You are the Inquisition itself, forged in our hands." Brother Anselm's quill scratched furiously, capturing every word. Varick remained at the doorway, expression unreadable, as if none of this surprised him. I stepped closer to the bound figure, forcing steadiness into my voice. "What is your purpose here? Why take a priest?" Acheron's grin remained. Purpose is not the word. A pact is, an oath made long before your breath. You carry it now in iron and blood. The torches sputtered, casting long shadows that twisted like claws. I raised the crucifix from my belt, pressing it forward. Then you will answer to God. Acheron hissed, not in pain but in mockery. Which God, Silas? The one who gave you these rules, or the one who chained you to them? The chains rattled, the torches flared, and for a moment the chamber felt like it was collapsing inward. Then, as quickly as it began, everything stilled. The figure slumped in the chair, eyes rolling back. Only the grin lingered, carved into his lips. Varric's cane struck the stone behind me. Enough. You have seen. You have obeyed. That is all that matters. I turned toward him, the plaque still burning in my hand. But in the silence, I still heard Acheron's laugh echoing in my chest, mocking me with every breath I took. I could not sleep after facing Acheron. His laughter still vibrated in my chest, echoing in my ribs like a second heartbeat. I sat in my chamber, the plaque heavy on the table, staring at its words until they blurred. The candle burned low, and the walls pressed close, as though the Vatican itself wished to smother me. A knock came, soft but deliberate. I opened the door and found Sister Miriam standing there with her lantern hidden beneath her cloak. She slipped inside quickly, shutting the door behind her. You saw him, she said without greeting. You saw Acheron. I nodded. My voice was hoarse. He knew the rules. He claimed they were his. He made me laugh with him. It nearly tore me apart. Her eyes darkened. That is because they are his, and others like him. These rules were forged in bargains, not blessings. She placed a bundle on the table, unwrapping it to reveal more parchment. Faded ink stretched across the pages in broken lines, each fragment recorded like a deathbed whisper. I leaned closer. What is this? The final sentences, Miriam answered. Words taken from the condemned, some spoken, some stolen, some forced through others like you. I have been collecting them for years. The parchment smelled of mold and candle smoke. I scanned the lines. They were jagged, incomplete, yet something bound them together. The chain is endless until blood touches earth. The bell tolls 13, but the circle does not break. The Father of Fathers hides the final sin. The hands that hold the bowl are themselves condemned. The ground must drink to end the fire. I read them aloud, each word sinking into me like iron nails. Miriam watched me closely. Do you see? Each phrase by itself is madness, but together they form a pattern, a prophecy. My mouth was dry. A prophecy of what? Her lantern flame bent, shadows stretching across the room. Of the Inquisition itself, of the rules. They do not end corruption, they feed it. Every confession, every laugh, every silence, every restraint, each one strengthens the pact. The prophecy says only blood on the ground can end it. I stared at the plaque. Rule 1. No blood may touch the ground. My stomach turned. Then the first rule is a lie, a chain meant to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled. Miriam nodded. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. Yes, as long as the rules are obeyed, the pact continues. Break them, and the chain might finally shatter. I pressed my palms to the table. The candle guttered, drowning in its own wax. And if breaking them unleashes worse. Then we face it, she said simply. Better to face a beast than live forever in its shadow. Silence stretched between us. The words on the parchment seemed to breathe, glowing faintly in the candlelight. Finally, I asked, why show me this? Why risk everything? Her eyes met mine, steady and fierce. Because you are the one chosen to carry the plaque, because only you can decide whether the chain ends or binds forever, and because I cannot bear to watch another Inquisitor swallowed without a fight. I felt the prophecy settle into my bones like a curse. The boy I had killed in error. Benoit's twisted grin, Acheron's laughter. They all pointed to the same truth. The rules did not save. They consumed. Miriam gathered the parchments, tucking them back into the cloth. She pressed it into my hands. Keep them hidden. Even Anselm cannot see this, especially not Varric. If he learns, he will silence us both. I slipped the bundle beneath my robe. The weight was less than the plaque, but somehow heavier. Miriam's lantern dimmed as she turned toward the door. Before leaving, she paused. When the bell tolls again, it will not only call you to another interrogation, it will call you closer to a choice. Remember the words. The ground must drink. She disappeared into the corridor, her footsteps fading. I sat in silence, staring at the plaque, then at the bundle hidden against my chest. The iron letters and the prophecy's words warred inside me. One demanded obedience, the other demanded rebellion, and I knew the time was coming when I would have to choose which master I would serve. The summons came at dawn, though no light reached the corridors where I walked. A guard led me to a small chapel buried in the stone, its windows bricked shut long ago. The air smelled of damp incense and iron. Cardinal Varric waited at the altar, cane resting across his knees. Beside him stood a man I had never seen before. Younger than me, tall, his posture straight as a blade, his eyes were pale, cold, untouched by doubt. "Father Silas," Varric said, gesturing with his cane. "This is Father Corvin. He's been assigned to the Inquisition." Corvin inclined his head slightly. Not a bow, not respect, only acknowledgement. His lips curved faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "I have read your records," he said. His voice was smooth, controlled, as if every word had been sharpened before leaving his mouth. "You have endured much. You have survived, but you carry scars." I met his gaze. "Scars prove survival." "They also prove weakness," he replied calmly. Varric tapped his cane once. "Enough. You will work together. The task ahead requires vigilance. One man cannot bear it alone." But Corvin's eyes lingered on me. Or perhaps one man should not bear it at all. "Perhaps it is time the Church entrusted the work to someone unbroken." The words struck like a blade. I clenched my fists, but forced my voice steady. "You think the rules spare the unbroken. They do not. They bend us all." Corvin's faint smile widened. "Only if you let them." Brother Anselm entered then, carrying his ledger, eyes flicking between us like a crow searching for scraps. He took his place near Varric, quill ready. Varric rose, his cane echoing against the stone. "There is no time for rivalry. Acheron stirs again. The two of you will face him together." My chest tightened. Together. I imagined Corvin beside me in the chamber, his cold certainty, his disdain for scars. After the meeting, I lingered in the chapel. Corvin approached, his footsteps measured. "You doubt me," he said. "I doubt anyone who believes themselves untouched," I answered. He studied me for a long moment. "I do not fear confession. I do not fear laughter. I do not fear rules written in ash. What I fear is failure. And failure follows men who hesitate." My jaw tightened. "Hesitation is not weakness. It is caution. Caution keeps us alive." Corvin's eyes glimmered. "Alive is not enough. The Church does not need men who survive. It needs men who conquer." He turned and walked away, robes whispering across the stone. I stood alone before the altar, the iron plaque heavy in my hands. The prophecy Miriam had shown me burned in my mind. The ground must drink. If Corvin was the future of the Inquisition, then the chain was only tightening. That night, as I returned to my cell, I found a slip of parchment beneath my door. No seal, no signature, only 5 words scrawled in hurried ink. "He will replace you soon." The candlelight shook in my hand. I crushed the parchment, but the words clung to me like a second skin. The rules bound me to demons. But now I knew the church itself had bound me to a rival, a man who would gladly see me broken and discarded. And somewhere deep inside, I feared that Father Corvin was not only my replacement, he might be my executioner. The chamber was colder this time. Frost clung to the chains that dangled from the ceiling, though no wind stirred. My breath clouded in the air as I entered, plaque in hand, crucifix heavy at my belt. Father Corvin stood at the far side of the room, his posture rigid, his eyes shining with eagerness. He had been chosen to assist, or perhaps to observe whether I still had strength enough to serve. Brother Anselm was already seated at his desk, quill poised. Cardinal Varick lingered near the door, his cane resting lightly on the stone, as though he had all the time in the world. In the center of the chamber sat the vessel. No chains bound him now. He floated inches above the chair, limbs slack, head tilted back. His mouth hung open, and from it poured a low hum that shook the walls. Acheron. His eyes snapped open when I stepped forward. They were voids, endless pits where no light lived. His grin spread slowly. "Silas returns," he said. The voice was layered, dozens speaking at once. "And he brings a shadow at his side." His gaze slid to Corvin, who did not flinch. I raised the plaque. My hands shook, but I forced my voice steady. "By the rules, you will answer." The grin widened. "By the rules, you will confess." The torches along the walls hissed, sparks bursting into the air. My stomach turned. Rule 2 had already forced one confession from me. I feared what he would demand next. Acheron's head tilted. "Tell me, Silas, what is the sin you guard deepest? What is the wound that rots beneath your skin?" The plaque seared against my palms. Rule 2 blazed in my skull. When a demon asks your sin, you must answer with truth. My throat closed. Memories surged, darker than the boy I had once killed. This one I had never spoken aloud. Years ago, during a failed exorcism, I had doubted. Just for a moment, I had whispered a prayer not to God, but to the very thing I fought. I had begged the demon to spare me, offering silence in return. I fell to my knees, bile rising in my throat. "Yes," Acheron crooned. "Speak it. Let them all hear." Corvin's cold eyes fixed on me, waiting. Varick's lips curved faintly, almost pleased. Anselm's quill scratched, desperate to capture every word. "I prayed," I gasped, "not to God, to one of you. I begged for mercy, and I offered silence in return." The chamber roared. The torches flared white, chains whipping through the air. Acheron's laughter rolled like thunder. "Beautiful," he howled, "a servant of heaven kneeling before hell. And still you wear your robe." Corvin's voice cut the air, sharp as a blade. A man who begged a demon cannot claim authority over them. I forced myself to stand, clutching the plaque. My voice shook, but I spoke anyway. "I begged, yes, but I rose again, and I have fought every day since." Acheron's grin sharpened, his finger lifted, pointing at me. A drop of black blood welded his nail, sliding down. It fell, slow, deliberate, toward the ground. Rule 1 screamed in my mind, "No blood may touch the ground." I lunged forward, catching the drop in my palm. It burned like acid searing through flesh. Smoke rose from my hand, but none touched the stone. Acheron laughed louder, the sound splintering my thoughts. "You obey still. Even as your skin peels, you cling to the rules we wrote." My hand trembled, blood boiling in my grip. Corvin sneered. "Pathetic, bound by fear, bound by iron." I turned toward him, rage tightening my chest. "Obedience is survival." Corvin stepped closer, eyes flashing. "Obedience is slavery." Acheron watched us, delight painted across his stolen face. "Yes," he purred. "Let him speak, Silas. He knows the truth. Obedience chains you. Defiance frees you. Which will you choose when the ground begs for blood?" The torches sputtered, and for a moment I saw it, a vision of stone floors soaked red, Chains broken, the Vatican itself burning under a sky without stars. The plaque throbbed against my chest, as if hungry for my choice. I dropped the burning drop of blood into the silver bowl at my feet. Smoke hissed, the bowl shuddering under the weight of it. Acheron's grin widened. You saved the ground, but you cannot save yourself. The rules drink you with every breath. The vessel slumped, his body collapsing against the chair. The grin lingered, stretched across his lips even in unconsciousness. Varric tapped his cane once. It is done. Corvin's eyes lingered on me, cold and sharp. One day, Silas, you will not catch it in time, and then we will see who survives. I stared at my burned hand, the flesh blackened, the smell of charred skin filling my nose. The rules had spared the stone, but they had consumed me, and I knew Acheron was right. Every choice I made bound me tighter. Sleep abandoned me that night. My burned hand throbbed with every heartbeat, the smell of charred flesh still clinging to my skin. I walked the corridors alone, the plaque heavy against my chest. The torches sputtered low, shadows twisting like they wished to follow me. I found myself near the upper cloisters where the air was less damp, though no warmer. Doors lined the hall, each marked with a saint's name, but one door stood unmarked. I had seen Cardinal Varric enter it more than once, always alone, always after midnight. The guards had gone, summoned elsewhere by bells. Silence draped the hall. I tried the handle, locked. I pressed my burned palm against the iron. Pain seared through me, and then with a groan, the door yielded. The chamber beyond was not a study nor a chapel. It was a vault. Books lined the walls, bound in cracked leather, spines etched not with scripture but with symbols I did not recognize. At the center stood a table, piled with parchments. A single candle burned, though no one was inside. I stepped closer. The parchment on top was old, its ink still black and sharp. I read, "In the year of our Lord, an oath is sworn. The church shall bind the legion. In return, the legion shall preserve the throne. Neither heaven nor hell shall break this covenant. It is sealed in 5 decrees." My chest tightened. I read the decrees. No blood may touch the ground. When asked of sin, truth shall be spoken. The beads of prayer shall not be numbered. Laughter shall be shared when called. The name in darkness shall not be answered. The same rules, word for word. My hands trembled. These were not defenses. They were contracts. Promises signed in God's name but written by another hand. A second parchment lay beneath. This one bore signatures, names of cardinals long dead, and symbols beside them, drawn not in ink but in something darker, something that had not faded with time. I realized then that every generation of the church had renewed the oath, that every inquisitor, every confession, every laugh, every silence had been fuel for the pact. A sound made me freeze, the tap of a cane on stone. I turned. Cardinal Varric stood in the doorway, shadow tall against the candlelight. His eyes glimmered with satisfaction, not surprise. "You found it," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. I wondered how long it would take. I clenched the parchment in my fist. You knew the rules were not holy. They are holy," he said softly, "holy in their purpose. To preserve the church, to preserve order. Without them, chaos devours all. Better a bargain with hell than the collapse of heaven's house." My burned hand shook as I raised the parchment. This is not heaven, this is treason. Varric stepped inside, his cane striking once. Treason against what? The Vatican still stands, the faithful still pray. The pact has kept Rome from burning for centuries. Do you think obedience to rules alone built this fortress of faith? No, Father Silas. Sacrifice did, and compromise, and chains. My voice cracked with rage. You sold us. You sold me. He tilted his head. studying me as if I were no more than another entry in his ledger. You were chosen because you are strong enough to carry the burden. Every inquisitor before you bore it. Every inquisitor broke beneath it. And now you will bear it until the rules claim you as they claim them. I shook my head. No, the prophecy says the chain can be broken. For the first time, a shadow flickered across his calm face. Miriam, he murmured, so she has already poisoned you. He stepped closer, voice lowering. The prophecy is the demon's bait. Break the rules, and you unleash worse than Acheron. You think hell is bound now? Then break the chain and watch it feast. I held the parchment tighter. The ink bled faintly against my fingers, staining me as though it were alive. Varric leaned close, his breath cold as the stone. You belong to the Inquisition now. You belong to the rules, and soon you will understand that survival matters more than freedom. He plucked the parchment from my hand with a flick of his cane, sliding it back onto the table. Then he turned, leaving the candle sputtering. At the door, he paused, looking over his shoulder. Do not return here again, Silas. The vault does not forgive twice. The door shut. The lock clicked. I stood alone, my heart hammering, the prophecy burning in my mind. The rules were chains, but chains could be broken. The question was whether breaking them would free us or damn us all. The 13th bell struck as I entered the lower chamber. Each toll pressed into my skull like iron spikes. The plaque at my chest pulsed with every strike, heavy as a heartbeat that was not my own. The chamber had changed. The chains on the walls writhed as though alive. Torches burned blue, shadows stretching into clawed shapes. At the center stood Cardinal Varric, cane in hand, his face calm as stone. Beside him waited Father Corvin, eyes bright with cold hunger. You should not have read the vault, Varric said. His voice was even, patient, almost kind. Knowledge can be a heavier curse than chains. I clenched my burned hand, forcing strength into my voice. Knowledge is truth, and truth is the only weapon left to me. Corvin stepped forward, his crucifix gleaming like a blade. Truth does not matter, only strength. The Church chose me because I am unbroken. You are already bleeding inside, Silas. His words struck, but I did not falter. They chose you because you will obey without question. Varric raised his cane. Enough, the demon stirs. Both of you will serve the pact tonight. The ground trembled. The vessel in the chair snapped upright, chains shattering around him. His mouth stretched wide, and from it poured a roar that was not human. Acheron. His shadow swelled, filling the chamber, blotting out the torches. His laughter rolled like thunder, shaking the stones above us. Beautiful, he bellowed. The shepherds come to slaughter each other. Let me watch. The plaque seared against my chest. Rule after rule screamed in my head. Do not let the blood touch the ground. Do not lie. Do not resist the laughter. Each one a shackle tightening. Varric turned toward me, his cane striking the floor. Obey, Silas. Bind him by the rules. That is the oath. Corvin's eyes narrowed. No, we do not bind. We conquer. He lunged forward, dagger drawn, aiming not at Acheron but at me. Steel met steel. My crucifix caught his blade, sparks spitting in the torchlight. His strength was young, unbroken, but mine was desperate. Our weapons clashed again and again, ringing like bells of iron. Behind us, Acheron laughed. The walls quaked with it. My ribs shook, my throat burned. Rule 4 tearing at me until laughter nearly broke free. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. Varric watched, calm, unflinching, as if this was the ritual he had expected all along. His cane tapped once, twice, measuring the rhythm of our struggle. Corvin's dagger sliced my shoulder. Pain flared hot, blood soaking my robe. The drop splattered against the floor. Rule 1 screamed, no blood may touch the ground. The plaque blazed in fury, searing my chest. The ground seemed to tilt beneath me, thirsty for the stain. Acheron howled with delight. "Yes, Silas, let it spill. Break the chain." I staggered, clutching the wound. Corvin's blade pressed closer, his face twisted with triumph. Varric's voice cut through the chaos. "Do not break the rule, Silas. Catch it, hold it, or you will damn us all." My vision swam. My blood dripped faster. I thrust my burned hand against the wound, catching what I could, but the stone drank what escaped. The chamber shook. The torches flared red. Acheron's laughter rose to a roar. "It begins!" Corvin stumbled back, eyes wide. Even he had not expected this. Varric's calm cracked, his lips curling in fury. "You fool," he hissed. "You have doomed us all." I straightened, breath ragged, blood seeping between my fingers. "No," I said, my voice breaking but strong. "I have done what the prophecy demanded." The chains on the wall snapped free, writhing like serpents. The ground split, crimson light spilling upward. Acheron swelled larger, his form towering, his grin stretching impossibly wide. But even he staggered, shadows tearing across his body. The prophecy burned in my mind. The ground must drink to end the fire. I lifted my crucifix, my voice raw. "Then let it drink!" Acheron shrieked, his laughter turning to rage. Corvin fell to his knees, shielding his face. Varric slammed his cane against the floor, shouting words lost to the roar. The chamber quaked as if the earth itself had drawn a breath, and I knew the rules had shattered. The ground split open beneath us. Light poured upward, not holy light but crimson, thick and alive. The plaque on my chest burned white, searing through my robe. I staggered, clutching the crucifix in one hand, my wound in the other. Acheron towered above, his shadow tearing the chamber apart. His roar shook the walls, and yet I saw something new in him, strain. Cracks ran through his form, smoke bleeding from wounds he had never shown before. "You broke it," he shrieked. "The rule is shattered. The ground drinks again." Varric raised his cane, shouting prayers twisted with names that were not of God. His voice cracked, his control slipping. Corvin knelt in the corner, his young face pale with terror. I fell to my knees, the plaque pressed against my chest. The iron words blazed, burning through my flesh. New letters seared themselves across its surface. I heard them before I saw them. Rule 6. The Inquisitor becomes the vessel, chains lashed from the walls, wrapping around my arms, my chest, my legs. They did not bind to hold me down. They sank into me, carving through skin, fusing with bone. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the roar of the chamber. Acheron's grin widened. "Yes, yes, you are mine now. You are the vessel." But as the chains pierced deeper, I felt not only his voice but others, whispers, hundreds, thousands, the voices of those who had confessed, laughed, prayed, and obeyed before me. Their truths pressed into my skull, their sins flooding my blood. I did not vanish. I did not die. I remained. Acheron lunged forward, his shadow wrapping around me, his teeth stretched wide to consume. But when they met my flesh, fire burst from the chains. He reeled back shrieking, smoke pouring from his form. The rules had bound him as much as me. Varric's face twisted in fury. "No, he belongs to us, not to you." Acheron roared, his form unraveling, shredded by the very covenant he had mocked. His shadow split into pieces, each dragged screaming into the cracks of the floor, and I, still chained, still burning, remained. The plaque melted into my chest. I felt it carve itself into my ribs, each word etched into me like living scars. I was not free. I was never free, but I was alive. The light faded, the chamber stilled, the cracks sealed as though they had never opened. Only ash remained where Acheron had stood. Varric leaned on his cane, sweat streaking his pale face. His voice shook, but his eyes gleamed. "It is done. The vessel has been chosen. The chain endures." Corvin stared at me, his cold arrogance shattered. For the first time, fear filled his eyes. I pulled against the chains. They did not break, but they bent. They were part of me now, running beneath my skin like veins. I felt the weight of every rule, every whisper, every scream. But I also felt something else. The crack Acheron had left when he burned, a wound in the pact itself. I stood, the chains rattling, dragging shadows behind me. My voice was raw but steady. I'm not yours, Varric. Not yours, not his. I am the vessel, yes, but a vessel chooses what it carries. For the first time, Varric faltered. His cane slipped against the stone. I turned toward the door. Brother Anselm waited there, his ledger pressed to his chest, his eyes wide, uncertain. For a heartbeat, I thought he might bar my path. Then he stepped aside. I walked into the corridor, chains trailing, plaque burned into my bones. The whispers followed me, endless, but I was still myself. The church would keep its pact. Varric would tighten the chain. Corvin would wait like a vulture. But now the rules lived in me, not on a plaque. And rules, once carried in flesh, could be broken in flesh. The world above would see only silence, incense, and smoke rising from the Vatican. But I knew the truth. And as long as I breathed, I would not stop telling it.